Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of my Book It podcast. My name is Rob Howden. I'm the Road to Indy Insider as well. But this Book It podcast here on my YouTube channel is designed so that I can kind of, get outside of the Road to Indy paddock itself. We're going to be talking and have talked to drivers in F1600. We're going to look, obviously, we talked to Matt Clark as well in Canadian F1600. We're going to look outside into some IndyCar guys, some media people as well, some industry players. The idea is just to be a kind of a wider range show. We'll also do a lot of these Book It podcasts focused on the karting industry as well. Some great names in the karting world. So it's kind of doing what I do for myself in my career with karting, the Road to Indy and IndyCar. I'm going to try to spread this entire show from top to bottom, from grassroots karting all the way up to hopefully we'll be able to sit down with Scott Dixon before the 2021 season starts in St. Petersburg in March. Okay, so let's get rolling for today. This is a cool one. This is kind of a follow-up show. Obviously got things started with these guys early when I got the Book It podcast going. It is, of course, the Team USA scholarship drivers. Bryce Aron and Jackson Lee, the two drivers that were awarded those positions, along with Simon Sykes, both Bryce and Jackson running in the Formula Ford Festival and the Walter Hayes Trophy. I got Jackson coming on tomorrow. Today is Bryce Aron's turn. Let's bring Bryce on here right now. There he is. Bryce, how are you, my friend?
Good. Thank you for having me once again.
Yeah, it's great to have you back. But I love that suit in the background, the Team USA red, white, and blue. Looks good.
Thank you. Yeah, I like it a lot as well. Very, very pretty, and especially as cool as well. You probably can't tell, but if you look up there, you can see. If you look up there, you can actually see they kind of did a little design for the 30th year of the scholarship. Nice. So really, really cool being part of it in this 30th year.
That is indeed 30th year, and you look at the names, folks. If you don't know much about the Team USA scholarship, let me give you 30 seconds to kind of lay it out there for you. Noted journalist and commentator Jeremy Shaw started this 30 years ago. Essentially, the Team USA scholarship to take two young American drivers, take them over to Europe to go Formula Ford racing, Formula 1600 racing, give these young drivers a chance to go racing abroad. Major experience supported by a lot of great people that make it happen. This is the 30th year and started with guys like Jimmy Vasser and Brian Herda, AJ Allmendinger, JR Hildebrand, Dane Cameron, Joseph Newgarden, Connor Daly. You just go through the list of drivers that had a chance to go over. Oliver Askew as well, of course, Kyle Kirkwood. A number of drivers were part of it. Bryce Aron and Jackson Lee and Simon Sykes, the three that were selected this year. Simon is going to do some testing. He did not go over with these two drivers to run, but you did, Bryce. You were actually racing over in British Formula Ford throughout the season, running for Low Dempsey Racing. This was kind of a cool connection, though. You go from the Low Dempsey colors, and with this particular deal, you put the red, white, and blue on. That's my first question. Before we even go in, I've got obviously the results here. What was it like when they put the different livery on? The graphics go on the car, you get the suit, you get the T-shirt, you get the golf shirts. All of a sudden, you're Team USA and part of a pretty amazing family of drivers.
Yeah, definitely. It's really, really, really cool, to say the least. Meant a lot to me, and I think it means a lot to anybody who is part of the scholarship. As you said earlier on in the season, I was part of Low Dempsey Racing beforehand, competing in part of the British Formula Ford National Championship and some club races as well. But the cars already look really good, and then to see the Team USA colors on them, get the Team USA suits, the beautiful Sparko gloves, Sparko suit, and styled aesthetic T-shirts and team wear, it just made it feel really, really real, really cool.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, you couldn't. I mean, when Jackson and I got our suits, we were already here in England, and we were staying in the Dempsey household. And we got our suits, and we went from being, trying to be professional racing drivers to we went to being little kids in a matter of a few seconds, just looking at our suits and looking at our team gear and unwrapping our sparkle shoes.
It's like Christmas morning.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
It was like Christmas. Christmas came early, definitely.
That's fantastic. Hey, so again, you run the Formula Ford Festival, you run the Walter Hayes Trophy. We'll kind of look at that, you can kind of give us your input on that. First, before we go into it, you got the suit, cars decaled up. Any added pressure now being Team USA compared to the other races you did with just Low Dempsey colors on it?
I think I talked to Jeremy before the races. Jeremy talked about Jackson and myself, and he really didn't want to load the pressure onto us. That's not his goal. He wants us to, be able to achieve, what we can, try our best, bring our best to the racetracks, represent our sponsors well. So I don't think, definitely in that aspect, there was not any added pressure. But for me, I wanted to get a result for Jeremy. I wanted to get a result for everybody I was representing. It's the 30th year of the scholarship, and I really wanted to get a result out of it. So I think a little bit on my chest, I had a little bit of, I always kind of put pressure on myself because I want to do well. So as any racing driver does. So I think, there was a little bit added pressure because I really wanted to represent the scholarship well.
Let's talk about the Formula Ford Festival. In Formula Ford racing, of course, the most famous event. You look at the list of drivers who have raced there and gone on to run Formula One, sports cars, whatever it may be. Detail that for me. First, let's start with the weather. How was the weather for the weekend? Of course, the event happens at Brands Hatch, one of the legendary circuits in the UK. Let's talk weather, and let's talk about practice and qualifying, how things roll out for you early.
Yeah, so basically the festival actually starts on the Tuesday, if you believe it or not.
It's a long week.
Crazy week. So you travel to the track on the Tuesday. You get there Wednesday for the first practice. Then Thursday's another day of practice. And throughout these 3 days, more and more cars show up. So Wednesday, there's quite a bit of people, but it's not terrible. You get some free track. And you got to remember, Brands Hatch, we're on the Indy circuit, so it's only 4 or 5 corners.
Yeah.
4 if you're not including Surtees, which is a little chicane. But each day, more and more cars come to the event. So Wednesday, not too busy. Obviously there's a little bit. Thursday, busier. Friday, absolutely crazy with the amount of people out there and testing. And then
I'll
get to the racing.
I'll pick up here while you're talking. Here you are.
Yeah, so I mean, as you can see, a lot of cars, big event.
Yeah.
You can see in testing, people kept coming, and you go, how many more cars are there going to be? But yeah, big, and it's funny because the festival was actually smaller than the Walter Hayes Trophy.
Walter Hayes is big, yeah.
Well, Walter Hayes was 104 entries, so
That's
it was crazy field of drivers, very talented.
There's your hot rod there too, man.
Oh yeah, very pretty.
That's such a good looking car.
Good looking.
All right, so give me the scoop then. How things roll in qualifying for you?
Qualifying at the festival, went pretty good. I got a little unlucky with my draw of the heats. So the heats are done by random. And I saw in my heat, I had quite a few very quick, drivers, veterans of the sport, veterans of Formula Ford. Usually, all the heats are difficult, not to take away from any of them, but there's some where, you have a few more quicker guys than others. Sometimes the way the cookie crumbles. For me, I think I had the Walter Hayes Trophy winner from 2019. I had the guy who actually went on to win the festival that year, Roy Smith, Chris Millerhurst. So it's a very, very stacked field. And Luke Cooper as well, a national champion, or not national champion, national race winner, and Castle Coombe Series champion. So very, absolutely stacked field in my heat. Qualified third, which I was pretty happy with. Obviously, we always want to be on pole, but third, you could always work from there.
That's it.
And then in the heat race, it was, it was looking dry. Well, it rained a little bit.
Yeah, well, give us a little bit of the weather, because we're talking the UK, England in October, right?
Yeah,
it's going to rain at least one day, right?
So, it didn't rain one day. It rained pretty much the entire 2 weeks of racing of the festival in Hayes. It was wet or damp. I think at the Hayes we had one test session that was dry, and even then, when we say dry, there's still like little damp patches, but we're running dry times, and then the rest of it was either fully wet, pretty wet, or very damp.
Oh man!
So there wasn't a whole lot of dry running at the festival as well. I think we had one dry day, and then most of it was either wet or damp, or drying track. So it was always changing conditions.
Yeah, of course. So you qualify third. Now, to let people know, it's because there's so many cars. You go into different heat races, different semifinals. Correct? How did you end up doing in your heat race? And then talk about the semifinal.
Okay, yeah. So the heat race was a full wet race. It was looking at rained earlier on, and then it looked like it was going to be dry. And it was looking like it could be drying out, and then started raining as we're in the assembly area, of course. And I kind of went up early to the assembly area, so I still had my dark visor on. So I was like, oh, this is great. But especially with those guys in the wet as well, they're very, very, very good because they just drive in the wet all the time. And in the heat, I finished fourth. I had the fastest lap of the heat race as well, the wet, which was pretty happy with it against the a Walter Hayes Trophy winner, the festival winner, and just some very talented guys. So I was happy with it. It might have been fourth, but it was a very tough heat I was in, so I was happy with it. And then in the semifinal, I think that meant I started fifth or sixth in the semi, because obviously you have the 3 heats at the festival, then you bring them together in the semifinal. And then you take the semis and put them together for the grand final. So in the semi, I think I started I think it was 6th place. And then I was frustrated because I was in a really hard heat, but I felt like we had such good pace. And then in the semi, I got up to 3rd, which was really fun. It was like a very damp track, but the sun was out. So that was interesting as well. So we had to deal with spray and sunlight. So that was interesting. And then, so I finished 3rd in that after some fun moves, especially going into Paddock Hill Bend and going into Druid. So a lot of fun there.
So you talk about these drivers, the veterans of the series, the English drivers being good in the wet, but then you're telling me you're turning fast lap times and you're running up there, top 3, top 4. Have you developed your wet weather skills? Are you pretty happy with the way you're able to manage those kind of conditions now?
Absolutely. I struggled a little bit at some points throughout the season, and then I think something was clicked in my head at the festival in Hayes. It must have been the red, white, and blue colors on the car or something. But I think, something clicked at the festival in Hayes, and it just really, towards the end of the season, I felt like I felt like in the dry, I felt like pretty decently good on pace, decently quick all year. And then, and I felt okay in the wet, but then at the festival in Hayes, I felt like so much more confident in the wet. I felt like something clicked, and it felt really good. I was really happy with how I improved throughout the year, especially in the wet and during those last 2 events.
Well, when I speak with Jackson Lee tomorrow, obviously stark contrast for him. I think the first time he's ever raced in the wet, I think, was it the festival, was it not? I don't think he's ever driven in the wet.
I think we had a damp race it was not fully wet, but it was like a damp race at the international circuit at Silverstone.
You ran that weekend
separate. Before. Yes, correct, which is the separate track from the national circuit. Or
but
the
still,
Walter Hayes
no experience, hardly an experience for him. We'll talk about that tomorrow for sure. All right, main event time. It's the grand final. Where did you start? Give me your thoughts carrying that red, white, and blue colors for Team USA. What were you thinking going into that race? Where did you start first?
Well, the first thing as well you have to think about is the weather. Again, changing conditions. It was looking like it was going to be wet. It was a very damp track, and then the sun came out, so it started off very damp. And then it started getting drier and drier, and then there was a dry line going into turn 1. Turn 2 was still wet. Turn 3, Paddock Hill Bend, Graham Hill Bend was a dry line emerged halfway through the race. Surtees was dry, so you could go in there very fast, pretty much not even need to lift. And then into the final corner is almost completely wet, so you're going around the outside of the track trying to get the grip.
Really?
You've got also 20 guys at the front just all battling together. You're figuring it out one turn at a time. But for that race, I started 5th for the grand final. Throughout the race, I ended up making up to P3 with 2 laps to go, and was really excited. I was like, I started thinking, podium, and then I had the national champion from the previous year right behind me, and with 2 laps to go, I was like, at the festival, you kind of have to think about it a little differently, especially in Formula 4s with no wings, because it's such close racing. Yeah. You have to understand, people, especially at the festival in Hayes, they'll go for crazy moves, even if they don't really seem possible.
I've seen some of those,
And at this level, you really have to anticipate it, even if it seems crazy or silly to defend in an area where you think, no, you wouldn't go for that, because it's just not possible. But unfortunately, I kind of got caught out by that, and that pushed me down a few positions. But I still finished 5th, which was decent result, but really wanted the podium. So I was very, very hungry after that race to go get a podium at the Walter Hayes.
The Walter Hayes Trophy. Now, so let's just wrap up that. Going into the event, obviously feeling good with your wet weather. It's the festival at Team USA. Are you overall pretty happy with the P5?
Yeah, I'd say so. P5, it's a decent result, I feel like, especially in that field, and in those damp changing conditions. So I'd say, I was pretty happy with it. Just looking at results in the past, I think it was pretty good. I really wish I did get the podium. But I think anybody in my position would say, I wish I could have, I should have gotten the podium. But no, still happy with P5 result. At the end of the day, it was hard conditions against some very good competition. Indeed. And there's a lot of positives to take out of it. So I think 5th place, not bad at all.
Well, like you said, you got an opportunity to do it again with the colors, right? With the Team USA Scholarship. You run the Walter Hayes Trophy as well, the event at Silverstone. Massive event, as always, even within the COVID time. I know they had 140 before, I think, but even with COVID, it was 104 entries in that race. You get to go to Silverstone. You got the momentum of what you had rolling at Brands Hatch. Let's talk about going into Silverstone for the Walter Hayes event. How's practice go for you? What was the weather very similar to Brands?
Yeah, I'd say it was more. It was a little bit less changing conditions, which is pretty much wet or damp the entire time. But practice, I felt very, very good. I felt like I had very good pace in the wet. Really, really strong. And just, I was really looking forward to event, wet or dry. And we had a dry test session or one dry test session. I was quick in that as well. So, felt really, really good overall going into the event. I was, was very hungry going into that event because I wanted the podium. I wanted to get a result, for the scholarship. So after the festival where I just lost it with 2 laps to go, unfortunately. So, was really, really hungry going into the event. It felt really good in practice, really good in testing.
So where'd you qualify?
It wasn't the greatest qualifying on my part. I gotta say, I've made a few mistakes. One of the tougher sessions, felt really good all through testing, and you show up in qualifying and it didn't go to plan. Again, tough heat. I remember being on the phone with Jeremy Shaw. He's like, "You can't get any luck, Bryce. You always get the hard heats." I go, "Yeah, I know." But qualified 6th. I was a little disappointed in myself. But just kind of, I knew in the races, okay, I'm going to need a fight. I know we have the pace in the car.
Yeah.
Andy Lowe and Cliff Dempsey did a phenomenal job with the setup all week. They did, worked so hard. And my mechanic Andrew Jones, was putting so much effort into it, into the setup, into getting cars ready to go, just on strategy as well. Just they did a top job. So I really wanted to deliver for them. And I knew in the races I was going to need a fight for it.
So very damp, you said, in the heat race. You end up finishing P4 in the heat race. Damp again in the semi. You're 5th. So still, were you running in the lead pack? It just kind of biding your time kind of thing?
I was still in the lead pack because everybody was so close.
Yeah.
Just like I remember in the heat, I think where I finished 4th. It was just first through 5th. We're just nose to tail the entire time.
Wow. Okay.
And then in the semi as well, it was just nose to tail. It was just tough, making the moves because you're always in this kind of train of cars. If you make one, you could lose 2. If you make one right, you could gain maybe 1 or 2, and then you could lose 1 or 2. So it was tough. But no, it was pretty good races in the heat and in the semifinal where I finished 5th as well. The pace was really looking pretty good, so I was happy about it.
So you're going into the main event. You got P5 at the festival. What's the mindset before the grand final at the Hayes?
Yeah, so the mindset was, I want to move up, keep moving up. I know we've got such a quick car. There's so much pace in it. The boys have done a great job. Jeremy and everybody supporting the scholarship has done a phenomenal job, making sure this happens in this hard year. It's the 30th anniversary. I want to get a result for these guys. They deserve it very much. And in the final, there's the car again, all the sponsors,
all the supporters, right? It's amazing. So you've got these logos on the car, whether it's Aero or Cooper, Ganassi's on the car, Sparco, Team USA, Mach-It, all these organizations that are on the car here. What, how do things shake down in the main event? You got the pressure on you. How did things go in the grand final?
Oh, I gotta say they went very well. Still smiling about it. Actually, it was such an awesome race. I always think because I finished 5th in the semi, such a tight field in the Hayes as well. Even through the previous years, the same top 20, top front guys were there. Yeah. I think really the only people that were missing from the event were maybe some of the historic guys. So really the top 20 was just so strong. I think even stronger than the festival.
That's amazing.
Which was crazy, absolutely crazy. And I was starting 9th, and I said, I know we're really quick in the wet. I know we've got such a good car. And I just focused, okay, let's make positions. Let's make smart moves. Bide our time and wait. I knew we had a quick car, and we really did. And it's through the final, just kept making up positions, stayed out of trouble when I needed to, made moves when I needed to, and just kept, had a really good car, had really good pace.
You get that confidence when the car is good, right? It's good.
Yeah, the car was good. The entire time I was here in the UK, it was phenomenal. So the car was, so good, and I was just making up positions. I felt really quick. I knew in the wet conditions, I knew we were quick as well, wet or dry. Even at the festival in the changing conditions, I think we were quickest at some point throughout the final. So we were really strong there, even in changing conditions. And now it was pretty much full wet conditions. And I knew we felt so strong, and I kept moving up. And it was crazy as well, because when you're battling in the wet with these, with these top guys in Formula Fords, you can't really see going into some corners because of the spray. When you're just nose to tail, side by side, is absolutely crazy. But just kept picking guys off left and right. Having a lot of fun doing it as well. So much fun.
So let's talk about it, man. You made it. Look at this.
So I got to 5th place, and then there was a red flag, and I started 5th again for the restart, and picked off a few more positions. And got a podium, and was so happy.
That is fantastic. Give me your thoughts. Obviously, you're always wanting podium, you're always wanting race wins, but to cap the season off like you did at the Hayes, able to get on the podium like that, just give me a little feel of the pure emotion you're feeling on the cool down lap, and when you're climbing up onto the podium as well.
It might have been third place, but I was screaming in my helmet. And, I just kept screaming and screaming in my helmet. I was so excited, especially after just losing that podium at the festival with a few laps to go. It felt so good to get some vengeance to finally get that podium. It'd been something I dreamed of for so long, just to get on a podium and at the Walter Hayes as a Team USA scholarship driver. It's it's a very limited club, especially in the situation as well. Like in that last lap of the final, I was right on the gearbox of Neil McLennan, who was the 2020 national champion, and I almost and then I had literally right behind me, I had Ross Martin, the 2019 national champion. So I was in a champion sandwich going into the final lap. So I just really thought, okay, maybe I could go for second. We're really quick, but I think I ended up just kind of holding on to third because I knew really from my experience at the festival, I knew if I went for some crazy move for second, I would have probably lost the podium to Ross Martin behind, who was quick as well. So I just kind of had to think smart and got the podium and was so happy about it. The pure emotion was just screaming in my helmet the entire lap. Just it felt like a little victory in itself.
That's fantastic. Listen, so here's the big victory. How much different is Bryce Aron now? How much different are you than when you first got over there to start the season? Like the amount of development from the start to finish.
I say absolutely two different drivers, and I'd say a different person as well. I think big thing for me as well is, we're working with Cliff Dempsey and Andy Lowe and James Steeler, who is the driver coach at the Hayes and Festival, understanding the mental side of the sport, understanding you need to stay calm, you need to be cool and collected. If things don't go your way, shrug it off and move on. And I think that was such a big motto of the season. If something doesn't go right, shrug it off, move on, absorb the information, and keep going.
Those Dempseys are good people, aren't they?
Sorry?
Those Dempseys are good people.
Very, very good people. Yeah, I owe it a lot to the Cliff and Michelle for housing me for these months and being really great to me and my family. So
I got a question for you, actually. I got a question for you. It is, what surprised you the most, was the most unexpected about Formula Ford racing in the UK? It's an interesting. I like that question.
Okay, yeah, no, I think I like that question a lot as well. I think for me, I'd say how close racing is in the wet. Like in the wet, it's in the wet. Like understand, racing is very close in the dry, but how close and how competitive, like the racing itself is in the wet. Like in the Hayes final, we were so close, the top 5 and in the top 3 as well. It was such close racing, even in the wet conditions. And so that was what surprised me. Just even no matter the conditions, like you're always right next to somebody, and the battling's crazy. And also, I'd say the discipline of the drivers as well,
really,
and the racecraft of the racing here in the UK. It's very different, even in the wet. It's being so smart, so aggressive. It's such a chess match of a race.
The balance, aggression, and still racing smart.
Absolutely,
right?
Yeah. It's very there's very aggressive racing over here, but it's understanding kind of the balance of it, of course, as you say. Because obviously, if you're way too aggressive, you'll just put yourself out of the race. But it's just knowing that balance, knowing how much you could push each other, and I think that to me was the most eye-opening experience. Understanding how close you could race each other, no matter the conditions.
Here's a shot here, and you can kind of set the stage for me here. This is essentially at the end of the Walter Hayes Trophy weekend. Give me a lineup. Who you got in this pick with you?
Alrighty, we'll start on the left here with Andrew Lowe. He did a phenomenal job. As you can probably tell, the name of the team has changed this year. So went from being Cliff Dempsey Racing to Low Dempsey Racing, and he took over the team this year, and he's done a phenomenal job. Even in this kind of COVID year, he's done a phenomenal job. Stayed cool and collected. Done his bits to the car. He's just been absolutely a man of detail. And I really owe a lot to him because he really gave me and all my teammates, such a good car, so much attention to detail, and really overall just an awesome guy. And it was really a pleasure to meet him, as well as Cliff Dempsey there to the right. Phenomenal guy as well. I'm actually living with him at the moment as well. He's downstairs probably watching this, but he did a phenomenal job, and I have to give it to him as well. He did a really, he was engineering a lot, did some of the driver coaching as well, did a phenomenal job. For him as well, he raced back in the day as well. Absolute legend. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Absolute legend. So he taught me a lot of things, and definitely owe a lot to him. And then on my right, the bloke in the middle, I don't really know who he is. And then on the right is my parents, my mom Allison, my dad Jordan, who have really supported me all the way. Have been really calm, cool, and collected. and behind me all the way, and I can't thank them enough. This is actually, they came over for the festival because that was the first race they could come over for.
Yep.
So I spent 4 months away from them. So as you can see, the big smiles in that photo. Great weekend,
Right.
great finish to the season.
Well, let's throw this out here too, because this is awesome. And your mom actually told me this, and I confirmed it with Jeremy. This is amazing. 30 years of this program, and not one driver has ever finished in the top 5 in both the festival and the Walter Hayes Trophy. You're that guy now.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's cool to think about.
Right? You're the only guy. Vassar, Allmendinger, Hildebrand, Cameron, Herta, Joseph Newgarden. You're the only guy to top 5 at both. You got 5th at the festival, 3rd at the Hayes. That's a pretty cool little calling card to bring with you when you're getting ready to move up the ladder.
Absolutely, yeah. It's cool to think about, to say the least. My mom pointed out to me, I'm like, oh, that can't be right. I'm like, Newgarden and Daly, they must have been in the top 5 in both. And it's just, you think about it, and we went through it. My mom went through it one by one, and she's like, no, I think you may be the first. And it's just such a cool label to have. And once again, I owe it to Jeremy. I owe it to everybody a part of the program for making this possible, and giving me that little label to have for what it's worth. It's really cool to think about, though.
Yeah, you'll be able to take that. All right, so let's take this the time here before we cap things off. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about 2021. I know that you're still there right now in the UK before you come home, because I think you have a test coming up. Do you not?
I do, yes. So thankfully, due to my results at the Hayes and the festival and throughout the season, the folks at Douglas Motorsport have offered me a test at Donington in their F3 car, which is absolutely awesome. I can't thank them enough for it. So I actually got fitted to the car today. I'll be testing at Donington Thursday in the F3 car. Awesome. And it is an absolute, even just sitting it, you can tell it's an absolute monster of a machine. And it's a little bit of a step up from a Formula Ford, but really going to enjoy the experience.
I know when talking to you before, you're looking at potentially getting into the road to Indy. Obviously, this opportunity in British F3 could lead to something, you never know. You got that. What about the road to Indy? Is there a focus? I know we've talked about potentially going to USF 2000 next year.
Yeah, definitely. I think really the biggest thing is probably going to USF next year. In the States, I think really, as you can see, guys that have won the scholarship, they all go into, a lot of them, well, the majority of them go into USF 2000 and do very well and move up the ladder system, and hopefully one day into IndyCar, as Oliver Askew, prime example, did. So I think, maybe following those footsteps, I think that's probably the main idea for next year. I don't want to say, I don't want to count out British F3 or some possible other options as well, because you just, at this moment, I don't really know with COVID, what's the deal going to be. I think everybody does as well. What's the next step going to be? What's the next 12 months going to look like? So I think for me, definitely I'd say USF is probably the most likely option.
So there you go. Hey,
yeah.
USF 2000 team owners. Bryce Aron, I'd be sliding into his DMs here pretty soon to say hello and get some testing going. You got to be excited about getting some testing going in the USF 2000 car too, man. It's a great hot rod and a really good step up for you coming from Formula Ford.
Absolutely, yes. I'm really excited about it. The USF car looks awesome. Everybody I've talked to has driven the USF car. I have yet to hear anybody talk negatively about it. And people that, even from people that don't have anything to do with the series, that could say bad things. Everything I've heard is positive. Everybody seems to love the car, love the series. So definitely it's going to be something I'm looking into. Obviously, I'm going to look at all my options, see what's the plan for next year. But I think really looking at USF is a major idea.
Well, Bryce, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. Congratulations on the success of both the festival and the Walter Hayes Trophy. Only guy with top 5 in 30 years of a Team USA scholarship. That's pretty amazing.
Thank you very much. And before we go, I just have to thank everybody at the Team USA Scholarship: Doug Mock at Aero Paints, Pit Fit, Cooper Tires, SafeAsFast.com, Tom Goy Racing, Stelrec Company, Sparco USA for giving us this beautiful suits, Styled Aesthetic, and Napa Auto Parts for really supporting me and Jackson and just really making this opportunity happen. And I can't thank Jeremy Shaw, the man, the myth, the legend, for making this all happen. He's done a phenomenal job, and it really shows, especially like when we talk to him on the phone. He really loves this. He really cares about drivers. He really cares about racing itself, and it's been an honor to work with him. I'll give you one opportunity before we cap off here to rip on your teammate Jackson Lee. Did you have a good time together? Oh, absolutely. We had an awesome time together. It was really funny. So fun times in the hotels, at dinner. It's a lot of fun overall. We got along very, very well.
like that he posted that picture up on social media too, that you guys had actually raced together at the same team at one point in karting in Daytona. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yes, it was funny. It was my first junior race, first national race.
Yep.
It was probably his as well, and we were both just knocking around, no idea what we're doing, but under the same team as well. And it's funny, whatever it is, 4 years later, you know, thinking that maybe that we'd be Team USA scholarship teammates running in the UK. Something that crossed our minds at that point. But no, awesome to look back.
Bryce, thank you so much again, my friend. Well done.
Thank you very much for having me.
There he is, folks. Bryce Aron, know that name. Another one of the Team USA scholarship drivers, Jeremy Shaw. That incredible program he has put together that's brought so many drivers and given them so much experience that they've been able to use working their way up the ranks, whether it be the road to Indy, sports cars, wherever they went. Bryce did a tremendous job. Top 5 in both races. Of course, that podium at the Walter Hayes Trophy, so great. Big thank you to Lowe and Dempsey from Lowe Dempsey Racing. Both those guys, just amazing dudes. And to be able to have our Team USA there with the Dempsey program, and of course, with Andy Lowe now as well, is a great thing. I do want to thank everyone for tuning in. I appreciate it. Where's my little shot here? I'll turn this into a podcast as well. As I go, I just launched a new podcast, the Rob Howden Podcast. I know, fantastic name, really creative. That's all I had that day. So all the audio here is going to go on that podcast as well. I'll eventually get that out on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, you name it. But it's on Podbean right now. I'll get it up there later. If you're a podcast person, we'll make sure that you tune into that as well. Let's get rid of that. Otherwise, if you're watching, do me a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Put a couple comments in the bottom afterwards. Hit that like button. Give me the thumbs up. And the bell will tell you when I'm going to have another live show. We're back tomorrow, because I got Jackson Lee joining me. I want to say, I think it's 6 o'clock tomorrow night for Jackson Lee. I've got a couple other podcasts. I got another one to do tonight for eCarting News. But hey, thank you so much for joining me, folks. I really appreciate it. Bryce Aron's a tremendous young man. Can't wait to see him. Hopefully we have him on the road to Indy next year. Again, it's such a talent and did a tremendous job over there as well. So big thank you to everybody, guys. I thank you all for tuning in. I'm trying to find my last button here. I don't see it. Guys, thank you so much. Book it.